Southern Ohio Farm Show. This is Gigi Neal of OSU Extension in Claremont County, Agricultural and Natural Resources Educator.
I'm James Morris, the Agricultural and Natural Resources and Community Development Educator for the Ohio State University Extension in Brown County.
And I'm Brooke Beam, the Highland County Extension Educator for Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Community Development. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of the Southern Ohio Farm Show. We're glad that you are here. Our plan is to have a new episode each week that will highlight a different topic. This week, we will have updates on the weather from Aaron Wilson, the markets with Ben Brown, soil sampling with Gigi Neal, and I will cover our initiative for local foods. Our first guest on the Southern Ohio Farm Show is Aaron Wilson. Aaron, tell us about the weather.
Hi there, I'm Aaron Wilson, OSU Extension climatologist, here with your Southern Ohio weather update. So obviously we've had a lot of cooler temperatures spread across the region over the last 7 days. We've had temperatures average about 4 to 6 degrees below average, maybe a little bit colder than that over some of our counties in the far southeastern part of the state. And this really pulled down our overall 30-day temperatures as well, with generally 1 or 2 degree temperature departures, that is differences compared to average, a bit on the cool side over the last 30 days. As far as rainfall goes, the last 7 days, we've seen plenty of rainfall across our southern counties. In southwest Ohio, anywhere from a ½ inch to an inch. Some locations across our southeastern counties of Ohio, for instance, have picked up over 2 inches this week. And this is above average. We should see between 8/10 and a little over an inch of rain per week right now in the month of April. Looking at our forecast today, we're dealing with a few scattered showers, perhaps some thunderstorms this afternoon as a cold front approaches. That cold front will slip through here. We'll continue with some scattered showers and storms tomorrow, but temperatures will be much colder in the low to mid 50s for highs. And then as we get into Friday and Saturday, we're really expecting some dry weather, some nice breezes, and some warmer temperatures back into the low to mid 70s, I think, by Saturday. Unfortunately, the extended period, we do see opportunities for rainfall. We should generally see about average, about an inch of rain or a little bit more over the course of the next 7 days. So not too far from normal for the next 7 days. Extending beyond that, looking at the 6 to 10 day outlook, Climate Prediction Center still has pretty high confidence in below average temperatures heading into the 7th of May. Again, this doesn't mean extreme cold temperatures, as we should be in the upper 60s to low 70s this time of year, but certainly we're gonna really be slow to warm up as we head into the month of May, with plenty of opportunities for rainfall as we see it through about the 7th of May. So with that, I want to thank you for joining me and listening to this weather update for Southern Ohio on the Southern Ohio Farm Show. Have a good day.
Thank you for that update, Aaron. Now we'll be moving on to Ben Brown, who is an ag economist and farm management specialist with us here at OSU Extension for a outlook on this week's markets.
Howdy, my name is Ben Brown. I work in the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences at The Ohio State University, and this is my market outlook for the week of April 24th, 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought significant attention to both the demand destruction of corn and soybeans. However, as Ohio producers and producers across the country return to the fields in the upcoming weeks, I thought it would be important to look at the Planning Perspectives report, examine current market conditions, and then the potential for large supplies to return in the fall of 2020. The Planning Perspectives report, which is a summary of 80,000 U.S. producers, showed an intention to plant 319 million acres of principal crops. This is up 16.5 million acres from the rough 2019, but about the same as 2018. Corn and soybean acres combined showed 180.5 million acres, with corn up 8% from 2019 and soybeans up 10%. When we break the nearly 97 million acres of corn down across the country, we see large percentage increases for the eastern Corn Belt states and the northern Plains state of South Dakota. When we take those 97 million acres and apply a national trend-adjusted yield of 178.5 bushels to the acre, plus a larger carryout from the 1920 marketing year due to decreased demand, we get above an 18 billion bushel supply. If we wanted to match our previous record of 2016, we'd likely need to remove 4 million acres out of corn into other spring crops. While possible, it's probably unlikely given the fact that over the last 20 years we've only reduced corn acreage above 2 million acres once, and that happened in 2019. However, it is possible. We've seen strong export demand in grain sorghum, primarily to China, which could take about 500,000 acres of corn and switch it to grain sorghum in states like Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. We've also seen strong price competition in spring wheat, which could take at most 1 million acres out of corn into spring wheat in the northern plains states. However, this would still leave nearly 2 million acres that would have to leave corn and into soybeans, primarily in the eastern Corn Belt states. If we reduced corn acres by 2 million acres instead of 4 million, times that national trend-adjusted yield of 178.5 bushels the acre, plus the stronger carryout, that would get us to a national supply of 17.4 billion bushels. This is likely still higher than what we need for the 2020-2021 marketing year. Don't get me wrong, the national soybean picture isn't that great either. If we take the estimated 83.5 million acres of soybeans times the trend-adjusted national yield of 50.5 bushels to the acre, plus the roughly 500 million bushels of soybean carryout from the 1920 marketing year, we're really close to 4 billion bushels of soybean supply, which is a large soybean supply. Now, if we add in the 2 million acres that we just took from corn and apply them all to soybeans, we're getting closer to a 4.5 billion bushels of soybean supply. One way that we can look to see if it's possible to shift this many corn acres out of corn and into soybeans would be to look at the new crop corn to soybean ratios. A new crop soybean to corn ratio of 2.4 to 1 or greater would incentivize more soybean acres over corn. The ratio as of April 22nd was 2.5 to 1, just slightly above the 2.4 to 1 ratio that we saw at the beginning of March. So nationally, it's not looking likely that we're going to see significant corn acres switch to soybeans. However, when we look at Ohio and think of an eastern Corn Belt standpoint with cash levels, our new crop cash prices are drastically higher at 2.7 to 1 compared to the 2.45 to 1 that we saw when the survey was taken. So it's more likely to see corn switch to soybeans in the eastern Corn Belt than we would expect nationally. This still gets us to a large soybean carryout though, and now we have to look at farm finances. Looking at the contribution margins for both corn and soybeans can give us an indication of acreage shifts due to financial conditions. The contribution margin is simply just expected cash receipts of price times yield minus variable cost at the time of planting. We don't assume any crop insurance payments or government programs. We just take expected futures prices minus a expected harvest basis times a trend line yield and then subtract out the variable cost from the OSU production budgets. What we see is that in times when cash receipts are expected low, there's a preference to soybean acres due to their cheaper variable cost. And when cash receipts are expected high, we see a preference towards corn acres. Given the low expected margins that we see now, and the expectation that we've lost about $20 per acre in working capital from the 2019 crop due to decreased cash prices at the moment, it's likely that producers are going to be looking for ways to cut their production cost. But another way to free up working capital or to help with working capital would be to switch to the cheaper input crop soybeans versus corn. So therefore, it might be likely that Ohio producers might consider switching some corn acres to soybeans and then marketing some new crop soybeans at the current time. In closing, I would just like to say that we're expecting to see large crops of both corn and soybeans as we move through 2020. The preference right now is for soybeans in the eastern Corn Belt, but drastic movements out of corn into soybeans nationally is unlikely. Without significant increases in demand, either due to ethanol or increased exports, especially into China and Japan, Korea, and Mexico, we're likely to continue to see building stocks and suppressed price. And with that, I want to thank you for spending your time with me, and I hope to see you around the state of Ohio soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. We appreciate the update. Next, we have Gigi Neal, who will cover soil sampling.
Many times in our yards, we think about what can I do with the bare spots that we have in our yard. Also, we might have some weeds, some other items that we want to try and improve our yards and make them look great. I'm Gigi Neal with OSU Extension. I'm the Agricultural and Natural Resources Educator here in Clermont County. And today we're going to talk about taking a soil sample. one of the first important things to do is to make sure that you know what nutrients you need for your yard. And that's going to help improve not only the weed conditions, but also your turf grass. So getting the right balanced nutrients, getting the right balanced pH level is going to help, one, the weeds to help dissipate and to leave, and also to encourage your yard to grow. You might have to mow a little more often though. So today we're going to talk about taking a soil sample. I have a soil probe that can be purchased relatively cheap, but you can also use just a plain hand spade. Of course, if you use it to dig your plants like we normally would, you want to make sure it is somewhat clean before you take your sample so that you have any products mixed in. When we take a yard sample, we want to make sure that we stay roughly 6 inches. My soil probe, notice has a piece of tape on it. That measures roughly 8 inches. But in a yard, when we use the soil probe, and we go down to that 8-inch mark, we're going to pull it up and we're going to have some extra. The grass didn't necessarily come up with this, but what did disappear is what we want to disappear. We don't need the root system. We don't need the grass. That's extra organic matter that doesn't need to be in the sample. So then you just take your sample and place it into a bucket. And you're going to do this around your yard about 10 to 15 different times. Zigzagging random pattern. If you don't have a soil probe, you do the same thing with a hand spade. You would dig down into the soil, breaking it open. You can do this with a shovel also. Okay, so now I've got a wedge made. You want to take a small slice and come up with what is below the root level. Once again, put that in the bucket. Once you do that across your yard, you're just going to mix it up in the bucket. And then put it in a sandwich bag. Bring it into the local county extension office and we'll send it off the sample in a small bag that looks like this with some contact information from you. Once the results come back, you're going to know what your pH level is. You're also going to learn about phosphorus and potassium that's in your soil. Then recommendations follow. Those recommendations will be the nutrients that you need to be placed up on your soil so that you can grow a better yard or even a backyard garden. Those nutrients will include lime to help raise your pH level, sulfur to help lower your pH level, and then nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium to give your soil nutrients. Those nutrients can be added by you, the homeowner, by going to your local garden center, or if you have a landscape company, they can assist you with that too. One additional item with taking a soil sample, not only to help improve your yard and to help to impede weeds to make it a more nutritional and fertile soil for your yard or your vegetable garden to grow, is to help with our water quality impacts. We want to make sure that we are putting on the right nutrients at the right time, at the right rate, and with the right source. This will not only help with the water quality and that impedes our creeks and streams, which in turn comes into our water supply for our homes and the businesses that we work with. So take your soil samples today to improve not only your soil, but our water quality for the world. If you have any further questions about a soil sample, please contact OSU Extension in Clermont County at 513-732-7070.
Hello everyone, this is Gigi Neal with OSU Extension in Clermont County. Since we're out on this COVID-19 and a stay-at-home order for an extended period of time, we wanted to make sure that you are still available to do your soil samples so that you can get the best benefit from your crops later this year from the soil that you have, that you're growing those products in, whether it's your fruits or vegetables or even your lawn. This taking a soil sample is a very important item to make sure that those nutrient levels are correct. So when you're taking your soil sample, we wanted to make sure that you could still do that. So we created on the county websites a location for you to do that, and we can keep that social distancing that they have asked us to do. So if you go to your county website, and if you've never visited a county website, you can do so by finding any of the 88 counties by typing in the county name .osu.edu. We'd be more than happy to assist you at any time with items in regards to Ag and Natural Resources, Family Consumer Sciences, 4-H Youth Development, Community Development, and even SNAP Education. Find our information and contact us at one of the local county offices. Today, we're going to be working with Clermont County because, well, that's where I work. So here we are at the Clermont County Extension website, which is claremont.osu.edu. If you'd like to find Brown County, then of course you type in brown.osu.edu. And the same thing for Highland, highland.osu.edu. Finding a pattern here? Visit any of the 88 county websites by doing that. So if we scroll down a little bit, you'll notice that we have some information in regards to contacting our office. Since we are teleworking, you can still reach us. Find us on our by contacting our office numbers, and you can also contact us by email. But the point that we're working on today is we're going down here to Agricultural and Natural Resources on the left side of your toolbar. And when you click on that, we open up a new page with agricultural information, all kinds of different things that you can find here. But we're going to go down here to soil testing and plant samples. Click on that. That takes you to our page that has the new soil test submission procedures. But let's scroll down a little further first. We want to make sure that if you have any questions in regards to taking those soil samples on why is it important or how to take the sample and getting the most accurate information, you can find that here. Also, we need you to, of course, take a sample. So how in the world do you do that? Well, you just seen a little video brief about it, but you can also download that information here, and you can have it on hand in a paper format. So now let's go back to the top and let's learn how to process your soil submission. So of course, since we are in the stay-at-home order, you can't bring your sample into the office. So we need you to make sure that you try and do the best you can. And so far, it seems to be working out pretty well. Several of the counties are doing it and across the state as their new process, and we are trying to do the same down here. So you click on this. Click here to submit your sample, and it'll take us to a new page. So here's the Clermont County Soil Test Submission page. If you're submitting, of course, for any of the other counties, you would have, of course, their name at the top and contact information. Just go in here, click Register Now. It's going to ask you for some personal information. And the one thing you want to make sure that you do is you go down here to the sample area. Home turf, or is it a farm field? So if it is home or turf, so we're talking about vegetable gardens, lawn, ornamental plants, anything that would fit in that home or lawn category goes under that home and turf. Make sure you click which one you want. If it's for a farm field, then we're talking about our corn, our beans, our agronomic vegetable crops. So those that are growing specifically for pumpkins, those that are growing just tomatoes, those that are growing just green peppers, we can specify that and narrow it down. Instead of doing general vegetable crops, we can narrow it down to the specific vegetable crop. So you select whichever one you want. Then you fill in the rest of the information, your home address, and of course, click Next. When you click the next page, it will bring up the information in regards to, there's be 3 questions for you to answer. If you, or it will have, if you submitted 1 soil sample, it will have 1 question for you. If you have 3 soil samples, it will have 3 blanks for you. What do you want each soil sample to be? Okay, so now I filled out all of my information. I have selected home, garden, and turf sample, and I will go down here to the bottom and I will click next, and it'll take us to our next page. Now we need to choose how many samples are we submitting. If you're submitting 1, then of course you will select number 1. If you're submitting 2, of course you'll select number 2. That helps determine the next set of questions. So I'm going to select number 1. So the next question that it's going to ask you is, what do you plan to grow in this area? So is it perennials? Is it annuals? Is it blackberries, raspberries? Is it a cool season? What do you plan on growing in this area? So I'm going to put down vegetable crops, just general vegetable crops. Now, if I wanted to get specific, as I said earlier, I could put in tomatoes or I could put in pumpkins. You can also put in specific trees or items like that. Just make sure it's as detailed as possible so that when we submit the information to the lab, we have the correct information. Now, if you had 3 samples that you were turning in, you would have 3 separate lines here, and you would answer each one of these questions in regards to the sample. So if sample 1 was for vegetable crops, sample 2 is for lawn, then you would put cool season lawn because that's the majority of what we have in our lawns around here. And if the last one was for walnut trees, that's what you would write down there. So then we go to the next page, verifying all of our information, and that we have 1 sample and it's at $15. Click next. Now, order summary and payment. Of course, we are taking credit cards at this time. So you would click on the credit card button, hit the submit button, and of course, follow the steps to the end. From this point forward, I'm not going to put in my credit card information, but you would also need to make sure you fill out the information on this page and hit the submit button. Once you hit submit, an email response will go back to my office associate. And if you happen to be from one of the other counties, it would go back to that office associate and they would receive that email and then provide you with further information to follow up in regards to how to process the soil sample from this point forward. So you'll receive a follow-up email with the email address that you provided, and then this letter will be included. It gives you the rest of the directions in regards to processing your sample. You need to make sure that you have just a sandwich size Ziploc bag and that the soil is of course dry. On a piece of paper, I'd like for you to write down the following information: your name, your label for your sample. Is it the front yard? Is it the backyard? Is it the vegetable? It doesn't matter. That is just what you want to call it. So whatever you want to label it as, so that you understand when you get your recommendations back, you know which area that it goes to. The sample number, large bold number on the attachment. So when you receive this back, you are going to receive a number that is written in here, and in that big bold number is what you need to make sure you write on the bag, because that not only corresponds with the information that was provided, that is how they know once it gets to Spectrum Analytic that this sample matches the information that was put into the computer system. And then once you have that all packaged up, then you'll need to take it to the post office and mail it off. And you'll send that sample to Spectrum Analytic at 1087 Jameson Road Northwest in Washington Courthouse. Once they process that, the information will come back to your county extension educator, and then that person will forward you information in regards to the results that were found. And with the results, you will receive the results and also information on how to interpret those results. And of course, there will be recommendations at the bottom. Then once again, once you receive your information back with your results, your recommendations, and you've read over the information on how to interpret it, but you're just not quite sure, contact the office, and one of us will be more than happy to follow through and follow up with you in regards to your soil sample information. So once again, if you have any questions, please contact your local extension office, and we'll be more than happy to assist you in processing your soil samples. And then if you have questions in regards to other agriculture and natural resource items, we'd be more than happy to help you with that too.
Thank you for that, Gigi. I know that's going to be a very important resource for us as we continue our teleworking efforts here at OSU Extension. Now we're going to move on to Brooke Beam, who's going to wrap things up with us here today. Brooke's going to tell us a little bit about some of the resources we have here in Southern Ohio for local foods.
Thank you, James. Over the last few weeks, we've received numerous phone calls about local foods, and in particular, where local consumers are able to purchase these direct from farms. In order to help connect our local producers to our local consumers, we've created an online directory that is available for all to access. This online resource can connect you to local food producers in your county. It is updated daily, and you can find all kinds of different producers who produce everything from milk to fresh meat and eggs. We encourage you to look at this as a resource as you can make your purchasing decisions locally. You can visit this site by going to u.osu.edu/local food producers. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of the Southern Ohio Farm Show. We look forward to hosting you again next week for updates on the weather and markets, as well as what you can do in the kitchen to spice up your locally sourced food, and an update on gardening. Thanks for joining us. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you soon.